Hey, how's it going, everybody? Pragmatic Attitude here. I'm super glad to have you guys here. Today we are going to be sitting down talking about the new A24 film, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So, from what I was hearing at least earlier on was that this was going to be like A24's kind of like take on Scream. It was going to be like a more darker comedy, Gen Z kind of version of that, which I will say this film's not a comedy, just heads up. Film's not a comedy. Just a little word of advice, just because a film has Pete Davidson in it, doesn't mean it's a comedy. That's official now. So getting into this movie, the beginning act of this film really does feel like just an introduction. We do meet the whole lineup of characters in this movie pretty quickly, but we're just kind of shown like the general gist of each of their personalities. There are also some small details that could potentially set up to where the film could go in the long run as far as, how events could, transpire. But I will say this though, for the first act of this film, it doesn't feel like it gives enough on screen at least to like the audience's pleasure. I'd say if anything, it just kind of gets the audience familiar with, again, these characters as well as the setting, in the sense of, again, this first act really just does feel like an introduction. And while I won't say necessarily that I was like either for or against what the film was showcasing up front, I do think that was saying that what the film does choose to display, it does it in a very self-aware way. What's going to get people hooked more than anything, especially in this first act, is absolutely the characters. And with that being said, the film's focus 100% is the characters. That is absolutely, without a doubt, its main focus. Again, just getting even like in the first act, just the general gist of them, displaying some of their more like toxic and negative traits, displaying some rumors that could possibly, transpire in a really alarming way, as well as body language and even some passive aggressiveness towards certain subjects and characters. And yeah, I will say this, for an A24 Gen Z whodunit horror, yeah, this film did pretty good with that. And that's kind of like what I want to add with, again, the film being very self-aware. But basically where this film really gets going is a group of these characters meet up at one of their homes during a tornado storm. And it is worth noting that not all of these characters know each other right off the bat. Some of them do, and some of them do have a history with each other that may not be exactly healthy and could be very concerning. But basically, they decide to eventually all play a game called Bodies, 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 where basically they all turn off the lights and someone is supposed to play the role of a dead body, and then you have to guess which one of them is the killer. But before things can actually get started, tensions run high between a few characters. And one thing I want to say in saying that is that, again, these characters' environments, especially aiming at the more like toxic and negative side of things, I do think that it might rub a lot of audience kind of like the wrong way. Because regardless of how to the T it feels and how real it actually comes off, which it does, the kind of theme and center as far as like personas and energy that these characters do give off, it does feel very toxic. And with saying that, it does not hold back at all whatsoever on anything. That is this film's center focus. But the performances of these characters, how they all feel, they feel exactly and they display absolutely just, again, that disgusting kind of environment that, toxicity is. It is everything from these actors' chemistry together, positive and negative, as well as the kind of like passive aggressiveness or like the low-key kind of like demeanor at times, as well as how they interact with, certain characters to certain subjects. It was impressive work for what it was. But yes, before things can actually get started, one of the characters is actually found dead during a point of the storm where the power actually goes out. And the rest of the lineup of characters is now forced into this, serious turn of events, and they navigate through one another as eventually true colors and even secrets come to the surface, eventually revealing who the murderer of this character is. But what I want to say now, which this could actually just be like a personal issue, these characters, I understand the type of character that they are all supposed to be portraying, and for what it is, if you're on board with those kind of characters, I think the film will work fine, I guess. But the way that they react to certain things, again, keeping in mind with what kind of characters they are, I feel like regardless of that, there is a certain level of like fight or flight or sensibility that is just bound to play a part in the humane kind of survival aspect of this film. And it does play a part in this film, kind of, but overall it felt just kind of like forgotten if anything, put last and just kind of in the background. And again, with these kind of characters, the film does address that in the sense of like, where it can. It just doesn't take full serious advantage of, even like with these type of characters, where even in that sense, it still even comes off like a little too ridiculous and not fully believable. And I thought that this was kind of like an on and off issue throughout the entire movie. And also the pacing, especially where things are supposed to get to like where the film's centerpiece is, it feels just very abrupt. And the flow and transition into that, it just didn't feel, again, that cared about. It felt, again, like I was saying earlier, 100% that this film's main goal was, to flesh out these characters. Which I do get, especially with this kind of movie. It's just that nothing feels nearly as, important, and just honestly kind of feels, again, just kind of forgotten and neglected, especially, compared to this. But now getting into the horror whodunit, side of the movie, the film, especially getting toward like the second half, really does take a turn, where I did find a lot of things actually pretty surprising, both, effect-wise as well as just with turn of events. Some reactions towards, some of the more horror-fronted scenes, and honestly how the film, fleshes out some of these characters and, how it turns them as people. Again, forcing true colors to come out, as well as certain emotions towards certain people and subjects. The film was actually pretty effective in that way of just being, very gnarly and very even fucking twisty. Especially with how far it actually goes sometimes, and how surprisingly it just turned things around that initially just didn't really land for me. How immediately the next scene just had, a real good payoff and reward to it in the long run. But it's really only during the last half, honestly. Other than that, certain aspects of the film either feel forced or even neglected. And it's really sad, actually, because in saying all this, the last half really does deliver in really every way from what I was hoping for, expected, but especially now getting to the conclusion, you can really tell that this material is written absolutely for the sake of a film. It's just so overlayered and pampered and even absurd as to how its only goal just kind of seems to trigger people in this final outcome, and even just kind of like overstays its welcome. Again, it just felt very forced to me, and honestly, it just kind of made the film an overall letdown to me. But I do think that the film's ending or conclusion was well structured enough. It just feels right, it's impactful, it has enough to reflect on, as well as one last punchline or gag, you could call it, I guess, that is honestly kind of like just take it or leave it, but for me, again, it just worked well enough. But overall, I just think that the film had an interesting enough concept and could have come out really interesting in execution. But a lot of things that were necessary and important were kind of forgotten about, whereas other things just overstayed their welcome and felt kind of forced. Overall, guys, I'm going to give Bodies, Bodies, Bodies an overall score of at least 3.1 out of 10 with an overall low mixed review. So guys, that is my review on Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I am a little late to seeing this film, so I hope that you guys have seen it. I would love to hear your thoughts on the movie as well as the video down below. Tomorrow I have a couple videos coming, one including a review of the movie Fall, so look forward to those. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you guys are having a great night. Let me know what you guys thought about Bodies, Bodies, Bodies as well as the video down below. Take care, guys. I'll see you in the next ones tomorrow, and I hope you guys are having a great day. Take care. Thanks for watching.